Have you been pushing through bloating, low energy, or hormonal chaos, even when you thought you've tried all the right foods, the supplements, and you still don't feel like yourself? Here's something most women are never told. Symptoms like fatigue, acne, or irregular cycles aren't random, they're messages. And the gut is where the body does most of its talking. Today, we're diving into the overlooked fundamentals of health, how what you eat, and how you connect to your body impacts your mood, your energy, your hormones, and your digestion. Because when you learn how your gut works, you stop guessing and you start healing. But before we dive into this episode, y'all already know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all.
Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast.
Y'all, welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, helping women who are tired of pushing through pelvic pain, bloating, and burnout finally understand what their bodies are trying to tell them before they lose more years accepting dysfunction as normal. And today's guest is someone whose journey from fighting ulcerative colitis, PCOS, and Hashimoto's to thriving through food and foundational healing will shift the way you think about your symptoms. Welcome to the Good Vibe Studio, Jacqui.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, functional nutritionist, gut health specialist, and homesteading queen who helps women reclaim their health through digestion, functional testing, and the healing power of real food. Emphasis on real food. Talk to us a little bit about what got you started into this work.
Well, like many people in my profession, I have my own very long health journey. Well, throughout the last decade, it's been a fun roller coaster from ulcerative colitis and Hashimoto's. Then years later, when I came off of birth control, PCOS and PMDD. And well, throughout many points along that journey, I was in the conventional healthcare system looking for answers and help, not finding those answers there. And so trying to find them for myself. And along that way, I think because as so many of us are like indoctrinated to just think about symptoms, I was just chasing symptoms for a really long time. Even in the more like natural holistic route, it was like cutting out this food or trying this supplement. And then when that wasn't really helping, it came time to like really dig deeper. And through my exploration and education, I think I've really learned that if you want to see meaningful change in your health, that you have to be willing to change some habits. So not only focusing on nutrition, but also looking at sleep, movement, my beliefs about myself, cultivating healthy relationships, moving through trauma, like all the things that are not always sexy, but are so important. And that on top of doing some functional health testing to really understand what was going on, like taking the guesswork out and being more understanding of what my priorities should be and what directions I should go. So doing all this and being patient zero and school has led me to being very passionate about working with other people to help them improve their health, because I think there are so many people out there who have like so many things going on with their bodies, but when they like take these things to their doctor, they're often dismissed or given some vague diagnosis and some prescription that doesn't actually really help. And so having been in that position myself, I feel really a lot of empathy for people in that situation, and I feel so privileged to get to help them and help them transform their health. Yeah.
I love that story. And I like that you were able to take that decade worth of an experience, and say such a roller coaster it was. But that you said chasing symptoms. So many of us chase symptoms because that's all we know. When doctors, we go into doctor's appointments, or people say, well, what's wrong with you? They're asking you about symptoms, not necessarily asking you, what did you eat? What did you do today? Have you been stressed out? What has been going on with you that you've kind of pressed down and haven't really processed? Like, I love that you said meaningful change means meaningful habits that need to be addressed. And I feel like that is something that we don't talk enough about. And and that's the whole reason why I got into the work, because I identified, Jacqui, after a 4-hour long surgery, being diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they found 2 small fibroids at the time of my surgery, that all of those conditions, a lot of the underlying fueling was through inflammation and my body staying in fight or flight mode. And there's so many different ways that our daily habits are fueling inflammation. And if you're listening right now, you can go into the show notes and take the Spot Your Triggers quiz so you can identify what those daily habits are that might be fueling your pain, might be fueling your inflammation, that might be keeping you from the healing that you're seeking, thinking that it's something else. But then I also love that you said you did functional testing to understand your priorities. That's the whole reason why I want people to start with the Spot Your Trigger quiz. Like, if you don't identify where the most habits that you're doing that's causing the most problems, then you're thinking that, oh, I could do this, I could do that. I heard about this, I heard about that. And it might not be your top priority. It might not be what you really need to address. And I think people need not only the awareness, Jacqui, but they need the clarity to know, how should I navigate this? Because healing isn't necessarily a destination. It's truly a journey, because you're going to always be learning about yourself. You're going to always be changing certain things. You're going to always be navigating things that you didn't even know was going to be a part of the journey. And that's just what it is. It's very powerful, but it took you, and I'm going back to the beginning, for you to be looking for answers. And so I don't know who's listening to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast today, but you're here and you're looking for answers. Don't just chase your symptoms. Get insightful about what life looks like for you, what those habits are, what those patterns are, and really get an idea of, what does a journey look like for me to truly get to know myself, love myself, and then care for myself, because that comes with advocacy. Jacqui, you said something powerful in our session, and you said people forget they have agency with their bodies. Why do you think so many women feel disconnected from their bodies today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a lot of people maybe conceptualize their health as this thing that is someone else's responsibility. And so they're not really paying attention. If you're waking up tired every day, if when you eat, you're getting bloated afterwards, if your cycle's irregular, all these things are your body's way of trying to communicate with you. And so if this is happening and you're just brushing it off as normal, like that's a problem. And if you are having these symptoms and then you go to a doctor who might give you some, and I'm not knocking Western medicine, it is like so powerful and so important, and prescription drugs can play such an important role in many people's health journeys. But I also think it's important to do some inventory on what are these habits, what are you eating, and like there are very simple tools that you can use to do this. For example, you could keep a food journal for even just a week and write down everything that you eat. And like with all the tools that we have these days, like you can be your own advocate to understand like how to improve your diet. For example, if you like keep that food journal and then put it into there's a website called Chronometer, or even just Chat GPT, you can see like, are you actually getting enough protein, fiber? Maybe like you're one of those people that just like does not get enough of some very important vitamin or mineral. And so there's like so many ways that we can actually stop and look at our health habits and evaluate how they might be connected to the symptoms that we're having.
And I appreciate you walking us through that. And I love that tip that you gave. So if anybody's listening, drop food journal in the comments for me. Let us know that you're still vibing with us during this empowered healing conversation, because that food journal will help lead you to self-advocacy. It will give you more insights or what may be lacking and what you might be doing really good. And I with you, Jacqui, I don't knock Western medicine either, because had I not had it, I wouldn't have gotten my official diagnosis to be able to then come and be empowered about how I wanted my healing journey to look and the way I wanted to approach it. I think the biggest component, I feel like, in regards to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, is to let people know that there's still things that they can do holistically, naturally, every single day that they have control over. They have the power over to help themselves and not always be looking for someone or something or some entity to come and save them. Like, they're the ones that are leading this thing, and they deserve to get the help that they need. And I feel like, Jacqui, women shouldn't have to suffer in silence, but when the body is sending signals and no one helps people decode, they really start to feel dismissed. They really start to lack empowerment and motivation to figure it out. And sometimes it becomes their norm and they just believe it's normal and this is just the way life is. And so I'm really glad that we're here to let them know that that's not the way life is. You see, Jacqui, she even went to school because she wanted to learn more about her body just so she could get a better understanding of how she needed to heal and in what way aligned with her, because everyone's healing journey is different. It's your healing, your journey, is my healing, my journey. And what we want you to do is just own the journey, be empowered to go on it because you are worth it and you deserve it. So as a gut specialist, for those who don't know, what does the gut actually do? And why is it the first place you look when clients come in with issues like fatigue, acne, bloating, or irregular cycles?
Oh my gosh, I love talking about the gut. Thank you for asking. Our gut health is so important to everything. Since we are heterotrophs, if I can give you a throwback from high school bio, we're organisms that depend on consuming other organisms for energy, right? And so, therefore, we need a system that can break down or digest the things that we eat so we can live and thrive. And so, gut health, by definition, is how well our bodies are able to break down and absorb the nutrients in our food, which many people take for granted until there are issues. And that might be a more overt issue like bloating or bowel movement irregularity. But really, if you have any kind of illness or imbalance, even things like fatigue, this is ultimately a sign that you're either not feeding your body the right ingredients or your digestive system is having issues with breaking down those ingredients and turning it into energy and all the vitamins and minerals that our body needs to exist. The other really important part of gut health is actually one of prevention of disease and infection. So our digestive system is a tube that goes from our mouth to our butts, and it's constantly being exposed to pathogens. You know, we're drinking and eating things that contain bacteria, viruses, fungus, and so that's why 70% of our immune system is actually found in our gut. So if you have inadequate defenses, like you don't make enough stomach acid or bile, or you have imbalances in your beneficial microbes, or if you have nutrient deficiencies, all of these things can affect your gut's immune system and lead to infection or disease.
So I want everyone to drop 70% in the comments, 70% in the comments, because I was today years old to know that 70% of our immune system is truly found in the gut. I know, about vitamin C and, really feeding your body the right nutrients, but I didn't necessarily know that 70% of the immune system was in the gut. So that's something that's new to me. But y'all drop 70% if that was news to you, if you didn't know that 70% of the immune system was found in the gut. Something that you said, feeding it the right ingredients or breaking it down in regards to gut health. can you give us a few ways or scenarios on how that would look like in someone's life to know that they're not breaking it down or feeding it the right ingredients? What does that really look like to us?
Hmm. So I'm gonna try to keep this simple, but you need a few different things to digest your food. First, you need adequate stomach acid, and having adequate stomach acid is extremely important for digestion as well as preventing infection. So in order to make the right amount of stomach acid, you need to be in a calm state. Many people today are in this go, go, go mode, stressed out. So a lot of people aren't making enough stomach acid. And in addition to that, you need to have zinc. So talking about not having the right ingredients, if you're not eating enough foods with zinc, zinc is found in things like meat, typically, also in some nuts and seeds. Pumpkin seeds are great for zinc. But if you don't have enough certain nutrients to make stomach acid, you'll also have some issues there. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, your body has a really difficult time starting the digestive process, breaking down protein, absorbing a lot of important vitamins and minerals like iron and B12. And so let's say you're stressed, you don't have some of the right minerals to produce stomach acid, you're already going to have a tough time breaking stuff down. And then as that food moves into the small intestine for the next stage of digestion, you're going to introduce pancreatic enzymes, which digest carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and bile. Bile is necessary for breaking down fats and digesting them. So, if there's not enough of these things, your body's going to have a really hard time breaking down the food. And if it doesn't get broken down, often what happens is microbes will start to break it down, and that'll start to ferment and create more gas and pressure, which is often a big cause of people's bloating. And you're not going to absorb those nutrients. So that could lead to nutrient deficiencies in your body, which then further perpetuates these issues of not being able to create stomach acid, enzymes, and bile. So it's kind of this feedback loop happening. So one way to support the body with this is there's some supplements that you can take. But additionally, you can really try to chew your food really well and calm the body down before you start to eat. So taking a few deep breaths, smelling your food, all of these things are going to increase the secretion of stomach acid. You can also start each meal with something bitter, like some bitter greens like arugula or a little bit of lemon water. These kind of things help the body make those digestive fluids to help you break down your food.
I like those tips. One, chew your food.
Oh, yeah.
Chew your food. But before you chew your food, number two was be calm before you're eating. So if you're a foodie like me and you're all excited and so ready to get into that dish, that meal, that food, take a step back and do some deep breathing and just be grateful for the food so you're in a better state, a calm state before you eat. And then start your meal with something bitter, whether it's some lemon water, some bitter greens. Is that what you said? Some bitter greens, just to get the right flow. I really appreciate you breaking that down, Jacqui. Knowing that the stomach acid needs to be in a calm state. That goes back to the fight or flight mode, the stress, the inflamed status that people are in. And then they wonder, they're stressed about the bloating, but then wonder where that's coming from. And it's definitely a root cause to it. It's underlying factors that play a role in it. And then I love that you talked about needing zinc and some of the zinc rich foods. And I'm a fan of the pumpkin seeds. And just knowing that zinc is important and needing to know where to find some of those functional nutritional benefits. If you check the show notes, y'all, I have a plant-based alternative guide right now that actually walks through different food groups and tells you the nutritional benefits that you're getting from those fruits, vegetables, grains. And so if you're just kind of confused and don't know where to start, you can check that out as well and get that plant-based alternative guide, just because we don't want you to be not understanding or knowing where to start. And we're just so grateful to have you here right now, tuned in, being empowered about that plate, learning about the gut. And so in your experience, Jacqui, what's one foundational shift women can make to support digestion right now that doesn't require a protocol, a supplement, or test?
Mm-hmm. Well, if we can dive into a little bit more of that mindful eating, I think it is a big step that people can take, that many people take for granted. I think many people are sitting um, with their phones or something like that while they're eating, and they're not really paying attention. The more we can just drop in, slow down, be mindful in all aspects of our lives. Humans were not, we have not evolved to be go, go, go. If you can find moments to unplug and be very present, whether that's when you're eating or just taking some time at the end of the day or at the beginning of your day to just connect with your body, your body will tell you things, and things will just work better the more that you can just be present with yourself.
I like it. Slow down and be present. Connect with your body. I love mindful eating, Jacqui. So let me just tell you a quick story. So I call it my M to the third degree healing empowerment formula: mindset, mindful eating, and movement. And I felt like those three pillars were foundational for me when changing my lifestyle, when understanding that I needed to take an anti-inflammatory approach to how I'm living after being diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and fibroids. And so I called it mindful eating. I was talking to my podcast coach and we were coming up with my pillars, and I called it mindful eating. And then I ended up realizing that I thought it was just me being mindful of what I was eating, what I was choosing to eat, because there was a time, Jacqui, and I don't know if it happened for you prior to you learning a lot about what was going on with your body and making changes, but at the initial state of changing my relationship with food, it was, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that, I can't have this, I can't have that, because it fuels inflammation. It keeps me going towards pelvic pain. It keeps my cycles irregular. It keeps the painful bowel movements coming. And it was like, oh, I can't have all these things. Once I shifted my mindset into understanding why these food decisions were so valuable to me and beneficial to me, and then I found things that I actually loved and enjoyed. And you can't find too many people that just say, I hate all fruits, vegetables, grains. You know what I mean? Like, it's just eating with more purpose and intention. And I used to say, make good gut decisions. I don't know if you would vibe with that one. And so I was like, I looked it up, and mindful eating was actually a thing. And I was like, what? And so I was like, let me sign up and learn more about mindful eating. And I took another certification because I was like, it's one thing to live it. It's another thing to understand the philosophy, the theory, the concept behind it. So then that way you can help other people, because it's bigger than just creating a different relationship with food. It's like what you said, being present with it. Not starving yourself. If there's something you want to have and you have that craving, go have a little bit of it. It's not telling you to go get a dozen donut. Maybe just have one donut that day if that's something you're craving. Like, give your body what it says it needs. Listen to it, honor it. There's no shame in it, but know why you're doing what you're doing. And so I'm really glad that you honed in on that mindful eating as something that is a foundational shift that women can really start to really support their digestion right now. So you kind of mentioned that how we eat matters just as what we eat. What's often missing from food conversations that keeps people feeling stuck or inflamed, even when they feel as though their diet looks good?
So sorry, can you ask that question in a different way?
Yeah. What's often missing from the food conversations that we're having that keeps people feeling like they're either stuck or inflamed, even when they feel like they're on a clean diet or they're eating clean already?
I see. Okay. Well, I do actually come across that a lot in my practice as people who are doing so many of the right things. They've cut out all the processed foods, they're hydrating, they're exercising, all the things, but they don't really see much progress. And so this is where I think functional testing can be so impactful. And so one of the most powerful tests that I use in my practice is called the GI map. It's a stool test that you do at home, which is a really fun science experiment, but it gives you such great information to understand what's going on with your microbiome. So, your beneficial community within your gut provides so many important services for you, affecting the health of the gut lining, preventing leaky gut, producing these anti-inflammatory compounds that keep the colon cells healthy, also producing neurotransmitters that affect our mood and hunger levels. I mean, these we are still uncovering the things that these microbes do for us, but it is extensive and it really affects our whole bodies. And then on the other side of that, when we don't have a thriving beneficial microbe community, um, that leaves us vulnerable to the invasion of some of these more opportunistic and harmful bacteria or fungus or parasites. And these organisms can be pro-inflammatory, weakening the gut lining, leading to the leaky gut. And when our gut membrane isn't healthy, and we have leaky gut, lots spills into the bloodstream. Your immune system then has to like work on overtime addressing all this stuff that's in the blood, and that can drive chronic inflammation. Anyways, the GI map can help us understand uh, what is going on so that you can take a directive approach to helping heal your gut. And as I mentioned, your gut health is so important. Your ability to break down and digest food is so instrumental to everything that your body has to accomplish. And so that can really be impeded by these infections and imbalances in the gut microbiome. So that's why I am such a big believer in doing some of this testing when you've already done so much of the important work to try to improve your health, but you feel stuck. And so I do think it's important, or can be very useful to invest in those kind of things when you're at that point.
And I think we don't talk enough about that part. We talk enough about eating more fruits, vegetables, eating clean, eating whole foods. But if you really don't know specifically what your body thrives on and what your body is needing, you can really stay stuck in a place and feel like you've tried everything and nothing works. And you still haven't gotten the deeper level insights. And so I'm really glad that you talked about the functional testing and that you offer that to clients and people to really get the true, I think, would you say, the microbiome community, the
Mhm.
real understanding of what needs to happen for your body. Something that you said, though, you talked about neurotransmitters and how it can impact your mood. For people with polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, sometimes there's a lot of mood swings that are happening, especially when it comes to like hormonal health. Can you break down how neurotransmitters impact the mood, and what are we doing to kind of start that process to get our mood swinging in regards to those neurotransmitters?
Yeah, so our bodies are complex. And so
Yeah.
neurotransmitters are things that our bodies are making to regulate mood and all the functions in our body. What are neurotransmitters made out of? They're mostly made out of protein and they require vitamins and minerals as well as fats to make them. So again, this comes back to your body's ability to digest its food to make these things. But in addition to that, a lot of the microbes in our gut also produce byproducts that are identical to the neurotransmitters that we make, and these can also affect our mood. Another layer on top of that is our gut microbiome actually plays a big role in our hormonal balances. Overgrowths in the gut can affect the recirculation of estrogen that's supposed to be detoxed and removed through the bowels. And so if you have issues or imbalances in the gut microbiome there, that can affect your estrogen levels, and that can have impacts on your mood as well. So all these things really, like they come back down to the gut and the health of the microbiome, and it can play such a big role not only in our digestion but also our mental health.
And I'm really glad that you tied that in there, because gut health does connect to your mental health as well. And so that, I think we don't break that down enough too. Because sometimes people say, oh, well, it's what you're eating that has you in that mood, versus what you might be lacking or what your body might not be able to functionally go through the process to be able to make you feel a whole lot better than what you're feeling right now. And so thank you for letting me know about the neurotransmitters, and that it needs vitamins and minerals. And now we're going back to the top of the episode when we talked about that food journal for just a week, just to identify what might be lacking, what's deficient, because if you're not getting the essential vitamins, minerals, proteins, like all of your nutrients, then it's going to cause a lot of havoc. And so I'm grateful that you were able to break that down for me. Your personal story, how you put multiple autoimmune and hormonal conditions into remission. What did that process truly teach you about how symptoms like fatigue or bloating are often misunderstood, Jacqui?
Well, symptoms like fatigue, when I was on my healing journey, I again I was chasing these symptoms, and I really didn't fully appreciate how much my hormonal health was connected to my gut health. I think a common driver, as we're talking about, of these hormonal issues is inflammation. And one of the most common sources of inflammation is coming from our gut. I talked a little bit about this, but that gut lining is really so important for keeping stuff that's supposed to be in the gut and out of the bloodstream. But when we have too much permeability, when we have leaky gut, that allows undigested food, toxins, and bacteria to get into our bloodstream. A really common issue I see is that these bacterial overgrowths that produce a lot of this compound called histamine. Histamine, it has a lot of effects on the body. Our bodies also produce histamine as well as bacteria, but it can, when your body has a difficult time breaking down and excreting histamine, it can kind of boil over, and this can contribute to anxiety, insomnia. And for women, our bodies, as we go through our hormonal fluctuations, the changes in estrogen can really impact our sensitivity to histamine and our ability to break histamine down. And so, if you have these gut issues where you're also getting a lot of this overload of histamine from there, and you're having some liver issues where you're having a hard time clearing histamine, this can really affect our mood. And so when I was struggling with premenstrual dysphoria disorder, where I would completely lose myself for 2 weeks out of the month into a very deep, dark depression, at that point, I was never connecting it to my gut. I was never connecting it to something like histamine. I thought this was purely a hormonal issue. And so I was taking like supplements to support my hormones, or going to my doctor who was telling me to get back on birth control. And that is something I really uh, want to get out into the world, that like a lot of these hormonal issues really come back to our gut health and our ability to absorb nutrients from our food, as well as regulate our hormones by using one of our most important detox pathways, which is through the bowels. And that's my long-winded answer for that.
No, ma'am. I was getting down the notes. And I'm really grateful that you broke down the histamine and the histamine sensitivity. And then also with your own personal experiences, talking about how it comes right back down to the gut, and the gut's ability to absorb nutrients and regulate through that bowel system. Something that stood out to me, like you said, you really wanted to get more people, more the message out there to more people about how things really connect to the gut. Um, and we talked about moods. I just really want people to understand that their symptoms aren't failures. They're not a victim to their body. It's just their way of their body communicating that it wants to heal, but it needs to be heard, and it needs to be, you need to be able to articulate what the body's trying to tell you. And sometimes it takes multiple people, more insight, more information to really figure out what it is that it's saying to you, because it doesn't look the same to everyone else. I'm also glad that you broke down even in regards to like the estrogen and the overgrowth, and even talking about the gut lining and how important it is to have that gut lining right, so it protects you from everything that you need. And that kind of made me think, because you talked about, and I'm grateful that you were able to be transparent and vulnerable with your story, those 2 weeks when you kind of slip into a depression or a state of where you just, things got dark for you. Did you feel like it was an internal thing, or was there maybe like an external event that happened that kind of triggered you to go into that darker state for a little bit longer, even though it happened every month?
Mm-hmm. I think we are this constant interface, it's like we are affected by what is happening in our outside world as well as what's going on the inside. So I was already experiencing a lot of inflammation because I have ulcerative colitis. And so, I'm dealing with some health issues. And then, something difficult happens in my life that I don't want to deal with. And so I suppress those emotions. And then I suppress those emotions by turning to unhealthy habits, which is like also, it's like this outside thing, but is affecting my internal world. And so it really was both this, recognizing of my environment, and then also healing trauma that I didn't want to face. And then like there's so many parts to healing ourselves, and as you mentioned, everyone's healing journey is going to be different, and those different parts of what I'm talking about might be more important for different people. Personally, I was doing so much for a long time. Like I was doing meditation, I was taking a lot of supplements, I was doing microdosing. I was trying everything to like kind of manage my mood because the PMDD was so all encompassing. It took over my life for, half the time. Uh and this is why I'm so passionate about gut health, because for my journey, the thing that really transformed so much for me was doing the functional testing, doing a gut healing protocol. I mean, all those other things were so instrumental as well, but that was what really transformed things for me.
And I'm really glad that you tied that back in, because it was a very integral part of it. And I feel like that's a place of power that a lot of people just don't know. And they don't know they need to know that. And I'm grateful that you walked us through that, because you also, I feel like sometimes people can take a external event and then make that happen, make it something outside when it's still an internal thing that's happening that was going to happen anyway. You just maybe focused on an external thing.
Mhm.
that is like triggering it. And so I'm really grateful that you broke that down and showed us what that looked like for you. But you also told me before that the darkness is not always bad. What do you mean by that? And how has that truly shaped the way you guide others through your own personal healing, their own personal healing journeys?
I love that question. Um, I think healing really comes from an acceptance of our whole selves. So, oftentimes people, when they're going through some kind of health crisis, they feel as though their body is betraying them and they want to reject all the parts of themselves that they don't like and just, one day they'll be this pure being of light, but that's just not what being a human being is. And I think both the physical, these sort of things that you don't want to be happening, and the more spiritual aspects of ourselves, finding a place of acceptance for all of those things, and really meeting yourself from a place of compassion and understanding that these things that your body is signaling to you are not necessarily bad. They're the, like, beautiful design of your body to communicate its needs. And so, by listening to our bodies, by accepting who we are, both good and bad, I think that's a beautiful part of the healing process.
I love it. Healing is acceptance of our whole self. I am also someone who felt betrayed by my body. So sometimes there might be women who feel a victim to their body. They just can't get any type of control, relief, understanding of what's happening with their bodies, as if their body, their health, their circumstances are just overhauling their entire life. And that's real, for a lot of people. And for me, it just felt like waking up from surgery and hearing my surgeon say, I thought this was going to take 1 hour and it took me 4 hours. It was very extensive. The endometriosis was on several organs. He had to do reconstruction from fallopian tubes and ovaries. He had to remove this large cyst that was on my right ovary, which I think ruptured, which caused the whole, like, what is happening, what's going on in my body scenario that led into the surgery. Because I just needed to know what was happening on the inside. So like you, really wanting people to get that functional testing done to understand what's really happening in their gut so they can prioritize healing. I needed to know what was really happening in my body. So then that way I could get an understanding of the direction I needed to go in, to get an understanding of the state my body was in. And not just saying, I'm out here living optimal health and not knowing what that optimal health looks like and what my body needs, and unable to communicate that. And so I'm really, really glad that we kind of went in this direction to let people know that it's okay. But when you accept your whole self and you're willing to still love yourself and navigate through the healing journey, the highs, the lows, the mountains, the valleys, just never giving up on what it is that you deserve, what you need to heal. But most importantly, understanding that you're worth this journey. You're worth figuring out. You're worth the grace, the patience, the space that you need to create whenever you need to create it, to give yourself that permission to love your whole self, to navigate through this journey. And so I'm really glad that you said healing is the acceptance of our whole self, not the parts that we like, not the parts that make us feel good, but our absolute whole self. And so I really like that part. Many women come to you after years of guessing with supplements, elimination diets, and protocols. We talked about the functional testing, but how does it really change the game, Jacqui? How are you out here just transforming lives through this functional testing?
Well, I think that the functional testing paired with a really personalized and holistic approach. So I have like a very high support, high touch way of working with people. So there's like always someone in their corner holding you accountable and um, kind of like making things easy and clear, because I think that can be one of the hardest parts of going. I had to go to school. It took me years and years to figure out like what to do for my body. But I love being able to like make that easier for people. Um, but doing the right testing can save so much time and so much money. I wish that I had invested in these things earlier on in my healing journey. We discussed this a little bit actually before we started recording, but I also do food sensitivity testing. And so when there is leaky gut happening, that means like undigested food is getting into the bloodstream, your immune system then reacts to those foods. And every time you're eating them, it creates inflammation. And so some people are like, I don't know what I'm eating, but I have a stomach ache all the time, or I'm bloated all the time. And so that can be so helpful at removing some of the guesswork. It's really not necessary for everyone, but for people who are having a lot of digestive issues or a lot of skin issues, it can be such a game changer. And then I also am a huge fan of people getting regular blood work, and that's something I like to do with most of my clients. Unfortunately, if you were to go to the doctor, most doctors are like looking at um, these lab ranges that are like too wide. They're based on population averages that don't really look at what is optimal for human health. And so with a more narrow range, a functional range, you can really like figure out where certain symptoms are coming from that like most doctors would miss. A lot of my female clients have issues with iron or issues with their thyroid hormones that a lot of doctors aren't looking at. And so yeah, going to someone that can support you in these ways is if you really are going through some kind of health crisis, is I think really worth the investment.
I think so too. And I really like that you broke that down and understood like one, it's the testing, it's the information, it's the data, but two, it's the personalized approach packaged
Mhm.
in something that's not only high touch with accountability, but it's also simplifying the journey for you. And I feel like that right there, Jacqui, is where I feel most people miss the mark when they're doing something that's not what their traditional approach has been to helping them heal and to understand what's going on. And I feel like when you kind of grow up into Western culture, it's like I have these symptoms, I'm going to the doctor, I'm being prescribed this, and we're kind of moving on from it. And like you said, sometimes their approach is more broad and not as specific to get to root cause healing versus treating whatever's already happened and a little bit more reactive. And so that comes with a level of education. It comes with a level of experience. It comes with high value when you're talking about someone's livelihood. And sometimes it's not a point of, I think this costs too much. It's more so your vitality and your life should be priceless. And so when you're thinking about investing in your health, if you don't second guess the copays, let alone what it's going to cost when you then have to go pick up the prescription or consider a surgery, why hesitate when you can get more information of the root cause of why you're stuck in healing? If you've never tried that yet, your statement is, I've tried everything and it doesn't work. And so to the person who might have a fixed mindset, or maybe they weren't thinking of all these different ways of healing and approaching it holistically, getting more data, getting personalized help, understanding how lifestyle factors, patterns, habits are impacting and influencing the state of health that you're in, I want you to know that you can do something about it, and just do what you feel is best for you. And just take the opportunity to seek that and get the insight and get the data so you can get the personalized approach from someone who simplifies it in a way that you feel confident about helping you help you. Because at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. Someone is just helping you help you because you deserve that help. So I kind of want to To this person, this woman that's out there, Jacqui, listening, who feels dismissed, disconnected from her body, overwhelmed by her symptoms, what's her first step back to herself?
Well, if we could just kind of tie it all back to what we've been bringing up throughout this whole conversation is listening to your body, understanding that you do deserve to feel good. Like it is not normal to wake up tired. It is not normal to feel like an emotional wreck. You can feel amazing. It is going to take some work. You have to want it. Um, but yeah, like the first steps are to take inventory, to take accountability, and to, as you've said so beautifully, to believe that you are worth it.
I don't know if y'all got it, but I did. Take inventory, take accountability, and know that you are worth it because you deserve to feel good. So, Jacqui, we're getting into the Vitality Sparks round. All right. So, quick, rapid fire responses. You ready?
Okay.
Here we go. One food you swear by for gut health.
Salmon, wild caught salmon. I mean,
Okay.
it's got so much good stuff in it.
Okay. What's a healing myth that drives you nuts? No pun on the nuts.
A healing myth that drives me nuts. Well, I'm having a hard time thinking of some myths right now. Oh man, I'm not doing good at this rapid fire.
It's okay. What do you think people have been believing about gut health or health in general that you're just
Mhm.
like, that's not true? Oh my gosh, y'all.
I think, I mean, in general, I don't know if this is a myth, but it's a trend that people are getting their health advice from social media.
Mm.
Because there really isn't like a one size fits approach. Even if you're getting it from someone who might be an expert, like like if they're making some general recommendations for a supplement, like what I know behind the scenes is that that supplement is not for everybody, and you really need to be careful, even if it's just some like more natural supplement. I think people, um, they do that a little bit too carelessly. So supplements are not the answer to everything, and not every supplement is for you.
Not every supplement is for you. That was a good one. Okay. What's one symptom women ignore but shouldn't?
Probably fatigue. I think people think that being tired is just a part of getting older, and it really doesn't have to be. Um, being tired all the time is not normal.
If your gut could talk, what would it say?
Chew your food and eat your veggies.
One daily practice you'll never skip.
Um, I think that hydration is so important, and I have my water right here. But it's such a foundational habit that I think a lot of people overlook, and I make sure that I'm drinking enough water every day.
Yes, ma'am. All right, last two signature questions. Give some advice for the girl dads, the father figures, the role models, the brothers, the partners, the spouses of women dealing with pelvic pain, bloating, fatigue, endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids. How could they better be supportive and a part of the healing journey?
I think making time for yourself, I think that taking time to unplug is really important. Um, Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes every day, everyone's going to be a little bit different in what brings them back to themselves. That could be breath work, that could be a walk in nature. But I think finding what that is for you so that you can take that time for self-care so that you can show up for others is really important.
I like it. So they need to take the time to care for them so they can best show up for their loved ones. Okay. I like it. Okay, Jacqui. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
My one of my biggest heroes, she just passed actually, is Jane Goodall. It would be pretty cool to have a meal with Jane Goodall with the chimps and eat some fruit.
Okay. Any kind of fruit?
I'll just have what they're having.
Okay. I'm with it. So let everybody know where they can find you, how they connect with you.
Yeah, the best place to find me is my website, JacquiMeehanNutrition.com. And I have a weekly newsletter there that's filled with like all kinds of information about gut health, as well as how to work with me. So look for me there. I don't do very much on social media.
Understood. Well, Jacqui, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here on the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, if this conversation sparked something in you and you're ready to uncover your personal inflammation triggers and feel better in your body again, take the Spot Your Triggers quiz. It is linked in the show notes, y'all. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie. Your symptoms aren't random. They're roadmaps to deeper healing. Thanks for vibing with me, y'all.